So we have Andre here from Evelyn, who will start off today's meetup. And after him, we have JD from Matic and Anu from AZTEC Protocol. And to close, myself and Sunny from Kyber Network will share a little bit more of our project. So this is going to be a very casual introduction to all our projects. We'll just have about 10-minute presentation and 5-minute Q&A. And after that, feel free to reach out to us and to learn more about the project and to have some food and drinks that are prepared by Devfolio outside the auditorium. So let's just wait for Andre to set up his. Yep, so I'll encourage you guys to pay attention to the presentations later because during the Q&A, the top best 3 questions, right, that you ask the projects, you guys will get $5 worth of Ethereum for your efforts. So yeah, just pay attention later. Thank you. Anyone can ask questions, even if you are from another project. Yeah.
Another approach, the approach of lending. Athland initially was peer-to-peer, and it has some advantages and disadvantages at the same time. Because when you work in peer-to-peer, you can create the loan offer, for example, or loan request, and specify all parameters like you want. You can set interest rate what you want, you can choose the collaterals what you want, and so on. And from another side, when you want to borrow something, you go into the platform and you see a lot of open positions. But for example, if you want to order just 10 die, but the smallest offer is 10,000 and they don't want to give you this amount, you should create your own, wait, and you know when it will happen. And from another position, when you create in the loan request, for example, the same. But with the lending pools, it's going way easily. At the moment when you deposit in funds on the lending pool, they are available for everyone. Because, for example, you have the big pool of die, and any person can lend any amount from this pool. It can be 10 die, 1,000 die, million die, it doesn't matter. And from another side, lender, when he places in the funds, in the same moment he start earning the money, because he don't need to wait when someone will come, because pool already have some loans activated, and you participating in this pool like all other people. And right now, lending pool is not something new. Already a lot of companies on the market, but all of them providing the variable interest rate. It means that at the point when you get in the loan, you don't know how much you will pay in the end. And for you, it can be the very huge issue, because, for example, if you will tell about the DAI, 1 year ago, the interest rate was just 0.5%, but right now it's grow in 41 times, and now it's 20%. And you completely screw, because you plan to pay, for example, just 5 DAI in the end, but now you should pay 200, and you know, it's problematic for you. And that's why we want to introduce fixed rate, like we're doing it on our Athland platform. It means that at any time when you go into the pool, you see the rate. If it's suitable for you, you take in the loan, and it's good. You know that's in the end of the time you will pay this amount. But in the same time, we will give possibility to make variable rate, and it's open another opportunity to make a swaps. Because, for example, right now when you get in the loan, the rate is 5%, but tomorrow it will be 3%, and you can switch from one mode to another. What will be better for you, and you can save your money. And also, first version of Athland and our interface, it was too complex for the people, because they're looking on a lot of rules, a lot of open loans. But with this interface, it's quite simple. You just go into the dashboard, you choose in the currency, what do you want to do, borrow or deposit. You can see the, for example, potential earning or potential money you will spend, and that's it. And also the same thing with the switching between variable and fixed rate. You just push in the button, and that's it. Your loan already not variable, it's fixed. And also the DLP, decentralized lending pools, is open the huge opportunities for development on top of them. Because, for example, you can make some dashboards where you can extend user experience. You can combine a lot of platforms. Also, if your product need liquidity, you can simply go to a lending pool, take this liquidity, and straightforward your business. Or you can make some algorithms and create some funds for staking, where people will give you funds and you will split in between different pools and earn and get more profit on it. Yeah, it's quick overview what we are doing right now. If you want to know more information about DeFi in general, you can join the Telegram DeFi channel, where a lot of news, a lot of discussions. And also you can join our channel, Aave DLP, where you will see our work and what we plan to do, and a lot of interesting stuff as well. If you have any questions, you can ask me. Yes? You don't have any risk. You have, I mean that you have the same risk if you go into variable, as if you will go to variable initially, because the rate can grow up. And at the same time, you will pay for each transaction. If you borrow in or lend in the huge amount, yeah, it could be not so matter. But if your amount is not so big, you will spend each transaction the gas, because every transaction in Ethereum costs something. But anyway, you will not lose your money. It's only the question is which interest you will get in the end.
Yeah, so for the lenders in the system, so they commit to a certain revenue that they're going to get out of their deposit, and if everyone in the pool basically switches to a variable interest rate as soon as the variable interest rate drops below the fixed interest rate, do the lenders not get a variable return?
Lenders anyway will get variable return, but that's the point that when you switch in the rate from one mode to another, we calculate in the past interest. You know, that's already 5 days past, we accumulate some interest, and we are adding it to your amount. It means that lenders don't lose the money, because anyway they will get this interest from the time was borrowed.
That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, and with this approach, when the people can switch and where they can change, where they see the rates, then it means that more people will participate and lenders will get more money than if the rate is extremely high, for example, and don't want to take the funds. Yes?
So can we check that means how much profit I have done in the past history, like what the transaction I have get, so it is a profitable now time, so you are providing any service in that the user can know, so now it is time to move on or something like liquidate thing.
In our platform we will aggregate the history and we will show you how it changed, what you have right now, and what will happen probably in the future. You will have all statistics about everything in our platform. And also it can be simply recovered from the blockchain. We will probably aggregate it off-chain to make our platform more flexible and faster, but also anyone can do this analysis manually with the listening of events happening on the platform. Because every event, the state will change and you can check it. Did I answer to your question? Good, thank you.
For those who just came in, earlier I mentioned that whoever asks questions, the top 3 questions, will get $5 worth of Ethereum. So we have one more question left for Aave. Who would like to pose a question here to Andre? Anyone? If not, okay, yeah, hold on.
Hello. Wanted to understand is how do you tackle the prepayment risk on the system?
Can you repeat a little bit?
Yeah. Is there any system to tackle the prepayment risk like closure, extension, or prepaid? That if I am a borrower, I want to prepay earlier, so the lender is not going to get the interest that he had been claimed earlier.
But if you will repay earlier, then it means that another person can go and take this money, and no risks from lender side. And also we have no problems with exposure. Yeah, we can control.
Okay, so they are saying that will be absorbed in the pool.
Yeah. And also the one point of the pool, what we cannot get in the peer-to-peer lending, that borrower can return at any moment. Yeah, because it's easy to implement in this way, and also the lender can take his money at any moment. He don't need to wait for 1 year or more. If he need his money earlier, he can take it from the pool. And if he will take money from the pool, then all amount of the pool will decrease. The percentage of interest rate will grow, and another people will come and place the funds and it will decrease and give a possibility to another person to leave this pool also.
Okay, so what if the value of the pool decreases?
When the value of the available funds the interest rates is growing. And if someone else want to earn money, then he should pay more. But if you already have the fixed rate, it doesn't matter for you. That's the point. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Andre. So next up, we have JT from Matic network. I think for all of you guys who are from India, Matic is definitely very familiar for you as one of the prominent Indian startups here. So Matic is a layer 2 scaling solution that achieves scale by utilizing side chains for off-chain computation while ensuring asset security using the Plasma framework and a decentralized network of proof-of-stake validators. So yeah, without further ado, let's have JT.
Hello everyone. I'm from Matic Network and my name is Jayanti Kanani and I'm a founder and CEO of Matic. So basically we started in 2017 November, and last year we also sponsored Matic. We become a sponsor at India, and we thought we could leverage Indian community and blockchain community here in India. Developers are pretty nice here. So why not build something big out of India? And we started with that thought in Mumbai. And right now we are biggest scalability solutions in the world. There are 20 plus dApps are building on top of Matic, and some of them are really big. And if you see them like in the world, they will talking about Matic to everyone for scalability, right? So yeah, let's talk about Matic and how we ended up here. So basically in 2017 when I started, CryptoKitty was there, and everyone was playing CryptoKitties, and Ethereum got jammed, and we realized that Ethereum is not scalable at all. It needs layer 2 solutions or maybe sharding, etc. To scale those things and dApps and other decentralized exchanges for blockchain. And yeah, I mean, when we thought about scalability part, first thing came to our mind is like Plasma. So Plasma basically what it does is scales the Ethereum, but as a layer 2, but actually it leverages the security of Ethereum itself. So yeah, I mean, if you see the Ethereum right now, it takes like 15 seconds or so as block time. So when you send a transactions on the Ethereum chain, it confirms like in about 2 minutes. And if you have like send a transaction today morning, it would have taken like 30 minutes or so, because it was jammed today morning also, right? So slow transaction was the first things we wanted to solve. Also, there are multiple other problems with Ethereum blockchain, like usability, right? So if you want to transfer a simple tokens like SATI on the Ethereum chain, you need like huge amount of effort, like install MetaMask, add addresses, create a key phrase, etc. Like it's a huge amount of pain to onboard those users on blockchain, on Ethereum basically. And we wanted to solve those things when we scale the scalability. We solved the scalability, and of course we wanted to solve the usability and UX part of it, so people just move from Ethereum to Matic directly without changing anything in the code basically. So yeah, so what Matic provides is like we use the Plasma framework. So Plasma framework is basically, I said right, it actually leverage the security of Ethereum directly. We have 1 second block time. 1 second block time is like kind of partial confirmations, where let's say if you are paying a beer on the dev launch, it instantly confirms your transactions, and that's it. I mean, it's too fast. We also have, so let's say if you have a dApp on the Ethereum chain, you just move that dApp on the Ethereum, on the Matic chain directly, no code change, just change the URL, RPC, and that's it. We have best user experience, we have best tools available for to build on Matic. We also have a proof of stake system to make sure everyone in the system have incentives to keep the chains running. So when we talk about layer 2, we also want to make sure every validator in the system have enough incentives to run the chains and keep going for further when we dApp, we scale the dApps. So yeah, we also provide multiple developer tools like Dagger. So Dagger actually I created in 2017 and for Ethereum, and it also works for Matic directly. So it works like you can actually create, subscribe something on Dagger and saying, okay, hey, if somebody send me money on Ethereum, just notify me through my SMS or WhatsApp, right? So it provides a simple SDK APIs to integrate in your dApps to do that. You can also use that in your servers to make sure you process the transactions in your servers or whatever you want to do with your transactions and on the Ethereum. We also have Matic SDK to integrate Matic directly on your dApp without worrying about the withdrawals, transfers, etc. Like Web3.js, right? We also have Hermione. So it's a WIP, work in progress product. So it basically provides a way to process the blockchain data for your dApps and for services you provide for your dApps. We also, so when we talk about the usability, right? When we talk about layer 2, we have multiple chains to interact with, right? One is Ethereum, one is a Matic. So if you use MetaMask or other kind of Web3 solutions, it takes lots of effort for dApp users to move their networks when they are on Matic, when they are on main chain, etc. Right? So we created, contributed to Wallet Connect protocol. It basically works as a UPI. If you have used a UPI, you just send a transaction to UPI and you just approve your transactions, and that's it. So we created a wallet with Wallet Connect protocol. It actually provides the best user experience for Matic. We also have a Taurus in the building also. They're also going to integrate Matic soon, today only. So you can also use Taurus as a provider apart from the Wallet Connect or Matic Wallet. There are multiple dApps I'm talking about building on Matic right now. First thing comes to my mind is Incento, right? The Chetan from Incento team actually build peer-to-peer payments on Matic network. If you go to the dev launch, you can experience the Incento app and you can buy beer or buy sandwiches and on Matic network with Incento. We have Decentraland. So those of you don't know about Decentraland. Decentraland is a top VR blockchain gaming platform in the world. So they are building their gaming assets marketplace on Matic. So marketplace will be like you can actually buy NFTs, sell NFTs, beat NFTs, or buy ERC20 tokens, like kind of decentralized exchanges plus marketplace. They are actually building on Matic. We also have multiple games like marble cards, card games. We have RPG games like Chainbreakers. We have Spring Roll. So Spring Roll is the Bangalore-based blockchain identity-based solution, like LinkedIn on blockchain company. They are building identity solutions, profile verifications on Matic. So yeah, I mean, if you are a developer and you are like a part of a small team, and you want to build on Matic, come to us. We help Indian ecosystem and all the blockchain ecosystem by providing small developer grants. We also help them to connect with multiple investors and multiple people around the world to make sure your products builds and grows as you want. Those who don't know us, Matic is like funded by Coinbase and Binance. It's the first time it happens in India. It's the first Indian project to get investment by both of them. We did our IO in 2-3 months back in April, and we are like first successful IO from like one of the first successful IO from Binance so far. So yeah, join our community, talk to us, and yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Janti. Any questions for Matic? We can have 3 questions, and if it's fast, can have more.
Yeah.
What's your product roadmap? Can you talk to us about what may be upcoming on your radar?
Yes. So basically, I don't remember the exact timeline. Of course, you can go to. So we have published our roadmap on the Binance IO site. So you just search Matic roadmap, you can find it. We also will gonna update our roadmap on our matic.network/roadmap. So yeah, it will.
You said that Matic solves scalability. So what if Ethereum, like layer 1 solution Ethereum, like start scaling after ETH 2.0?
Yeah. So basically, I get that question a lot. I just talked to the Ethereum people like a lot, and we were talking about how so basically the problem currently Ethereum has is like state grow. It has a like growing state. It has multiple transactions, and state is growing, and that's why it's becoming slow, etc. So if it .0 comes, right, and then I believe that every shard in it 2.0 will grow slowly, but all the shard will grow and consider as a like current ETH 1.0 because all the suboptimal dApps will come on the more and more suboptimal dApps will come on top of ETH 2.0 because it's scaling right now. I mean, it will scale. So every will come on the ETH 2.0, and same problem will repeat after some time. So I'm not worried about that. So for example, UPI, right? You use UPI Paytm daily, right? So 2-3 years back, UPI was not there, I guess, right? And so people were not using much of the 10 rupees transactions and $1 transactions at the time. But when UPI came, everyone was using those transactions, and same problem came in UPI also. Like they have a like roadmap of UPI 2.0 where they're actually trying to solve like multiple problems in scalability, etc. So I think it will like same problem will emerge in some time because everyone will use it 2.0 extensively, aggressively. So yeah.
So then what will happen to Matic?
Matic, we have big plans for 2.0 also. And
Yeah, okay.
So basically we will scale, our goal will be scale the blockchains, right? It will be 1.01 or any blockchain, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Plasma generally reduces the security component of in the Ethereum. So how about Matic? How does it solve? Like,
Sorry, can you?
I recently saw a video in which in second layer 26% attack is needed, third layer 13% attack is needed, and in Ethereum 51%.
It's not. I'm not sure where you heard it, but what we use is a plasma for make sure if everything goes down on plasma on the Matic chain, you can always go on Ethereum chain and withdraw your tokens there. So even if the Matic chain goes out of existence tomorrow and your tokens are on Matic, you can go on Ethereum chain. We have contracts there. You can provide a proof there, and you can actually withdraw your tokens there. So that's how Plasma we actually integrated on Matic. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
Can we draw can we draw tokens from the Matic network if my contract was natively deployed on the Matic network?
Uh, so basically, yes or no. Answer is yes or no, or yes or no, because you need to map those contract to, to the Ethereum chain, saying, okay, hey, this contract represents this token. Let's say you want to deploy a DAI contract on Matic chain, right? What you can do is like you just map those addresses on the Ethereum chain, saying, okay, hey, this DAI token contract on the Ethereum chain represents this address on the Matic chain. So when you exit, when you move your tokens from Matic chain to Ethereum chain, the plasma contracts on the Ethereum knows that what you are doing. So you need to map it first, yeah.
So currently, do we have this functionality on Matic?
Yes, we do have. So currently, DAI, you have, we gave a small card, right, for DAI, for $5 DAI. It's on the Matic chain, but you can withdraw those on the Ethereum chain and you will have a 5 DAI on Ethereum chain. Yeah. Thanks.
Hello, sir. So one of the perks of deploying dApps on Matic is the less gas fees, right?
Yes.
So from a miner's perspective, more gas is much better. So what is the incentive which Matic provides, which is stopping the miners from staking on Matic and not going to the Ethereum blockchain?
Yeah, that's a good question. We don't have mining, we have proof of stake, so we don't have to do like much of the electricity work, etc. We just miners just have to validate the transactions. If you notice, like we have 1 second block time, 1 or 2 second block times, right? And each block will be like bigger than the than the Ethereum block. Let's say currently Ethereum supports like 15 transactions per second. We will have 1,000 transactions per second in one block, right? So small is individually it's a small fees, but overall if you see the whole system, it's a lot of fee for the validators.
But in the future, even Ethereum is going to implement POS, right?
Yes.
So
yeah, so that's what I'm talking about. You always need a scaling, and validators mostly need, like, it's not like that if I'm a validator at Ethereum, I can't do it. I can't validate at Matic, right? They have incentives to validate both the chains and different machines, and that's fine. I mean, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hi. Thank you,
Thank
Janti.
you. Thank you very much.
Oh, there is actually one more question, Janti.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay.
I don't have any technical question. I came to know that your registered office is in Mumbai.
Yes.
Was it not a problem for you to raise funds? Does Indian government support that?
So our Indian entity is not a blockchain company. So it's a service provider company to outside Indian entities. So that won't be a problem.
Oh.
Yeah.
Actually, Indian government doesn't support that.
Yes, if they don't, like we have like good lawyers, I would say. They know what they're doing. So if they find, if government is prohibiting any kind of such rules in the future, we may go, we will take extra steps to resolve those things, of course.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Janti.
Yeah, thank you.
So next up, we have AZTEC protocol, an efficient zero-knowledge privacy protocol to enable private transactions on the Ethereum blockchain, powering real-world financial applications. And today we have Arnold from AZTEC to present to you more about his project.
Cool. So I'm Arno from AZTEC. I'm tech lead. Just so I get an idea of who's in the room, how many people were at the actual hackathon today? Okay, decent amount. So I'm assuming for those of you that were at the hackathon, of course you came to my session. So you know what I'm going to be talking about a little bit. But for those of you who are not, I'll just give a general intro to what AZTEC is and why we exist. So we actually started as a company not doing anything privacy related. We actually started as a financial provider. We wanted to issue corporate debt, specifically things that are called syndicated loans on the Ethereum blockchain. And that involved basically going to talk to very traditional players who do not know what a blockchain is and don't care to know. And basically finding ways, because we thought that the solution was much better than their current workflow, so finding ways to talk to them about what we do in ways that they don't freak out. And the overwhelming thing that came back from those conversations is, you mean that my competitors will be able to see what I trade? And that's not really something we had really thought about extensively at the very start. We had some ideas that maybe some other privacy protocol was going to come about. I know the Ethereum Foundation was talking about doing things with ZK snarks on chain when we got started, and so we thought that we could just solve it. It turned out to be basically an incredible blocker. And when we looked at what was around in privacy, everything was kind of theoretically maximizing kind of the theoretical beauty of the system. It was all to do with very general computation. It was all to do with making the most general architecture, with basically no real considerations for what the end user was actually going to experience and what the end user was actually going to pay. The most prominent one of those solutions are just snarks in general. So the big downsides with snarks, and I'll go into this a little bit in this presentation, which should be pretty short, is basically snarks take a long time to actually construct. So zero-knowledge proofs, for those of you that have not heard of them, is just you prove that you know some secret without actually revealing what the secret is. And I'll go into a description of what snarks are in general. But for the end user, basically the end impact is they usually have to wait a couple minutes at the very least for just the proof that they're trying to transmit to the Ethereum blockchain to construct on their local machine. And then when they do get to the Ethereum blockchain, if the snark is in any way complex, they are going to have to pay multiple million gas on Ethereum to actually get that proof validated. And so what we did when we started looking around is, or what we realized when we started looking around is basically we really want the full consensus of a blockchain. So we don't just want encrypted data on chain that you have to take off chain to be able to view what it is, but we also want full privacy. Zero-knowledge cryptography is fiddly, it's hard to use, bad UX, so at least when we got started we thought that everything was very difficult to use for the developers and for the end users. And we just realized that there was no actual solution to what we wanted. So what we actually wanted was something that allowed you to make customizable transaction semantics. So you had control as a developer on how your transactions gets executed, what the rules are, what are the things that the end user can and can't do. Because we were a financial asset company first, we needed cross interoperability basically between the assets that are deployed in private. So basically means that very similar to how in public Ethereum, you can trade DAI for Maker, and you can trade Maker for Ren, and you can trade Ren for Rep token without really having any intermediaries. It turns out that that's very difficult to do in most privacy solutions because of the particular ways that they're constructed. So usually you have to either do a trusted setup per asset, if the asset have slightly different semantics, and then you also have to do another trusted setup every time you want to create some kind of trading mechanism between assets. So it becomes basically impossible to do this, this interoperability. We needed it to be developer friendly because at the end of the day, we were not going to build the whole ecosystem ourselves. And fundamentally, the place that what I was talking about at the beginning, and the most important thing, it needed to be efficient from a gas cost perspective, and it needed to be basically imperceptible to the user that they had this additional layer of complexity in front of them. So Ethereum blockchain transactions are already slow, less slow thanks to the work of folks like Matic, but fundamentally we need it to be instant, this zero-knowledge proof construction. So this is kind of a rough introduction to what joint split is and AZTEC notes, but I won't go too deep into what the slide says. Basically, what we wanted with AZTEC is to restrict the number of things compared to a snark, which is very, very general, can technically encode any kind of computation in this construct. We decided to restrict what needed to be handled by the zero-knowledge privacy protocol to transactions and to semantics that are relevant for asset governance. So you can basically say vote, you can actually manage your assets, and value transmission. So you can actually say, I'm going to send some money to X, I'm going to send that money given these particular semantics. And when we restrict those, the semantics that we need to those two things, we can actually use something which is a bit different from snarks. It's actually a bit older than snarks. Something called Sigma protocols. And Sigma protocols are very, very efficient. They're slightly less, like I said, they're slightly less general, but they allow us to do everything that we think we need to do on Ethereum. So the big difference is, sorry, before I go on to this description, how many of you have heard of ZK snarks? Okay, so some portion. ZK snarks are kind of like the most popular, the most talked about privacy technology. They're not actually only used for privacy. They originally, or snarks in general, only came about when people were looking to do verifiable computation. So basically, I have some input data and I have some output data, and I want to prove to you that I have actually done the computation that you think I've done to get to the output data without you having to actually redo the whole computation. It turns out that they're also very, very useful in a zero-knowledge context, so you can actually prove, without revealing all of the inputs, that you have the inputs to a particular kind of computation, and you can actually resolve the actual computation. So ZK snarks, like I said in the slide, is fundamentally about I know the inputs to this particular algorithm, and I'm going to prove to you, without revealing what the inputs actually are, that I know them. Which is what Zcash uses, for example, and others in the space. They're very, very tailored. So every time, say you have an ERC20 and you have an ERC721, or you have an ERC20 and an ERC20 that just differs very slightly with the ERC20 standard, those are all different snarks that you need to construct. So they're very, very tailored. The proof construction, like I said, is very, very complex, and it costs time. It costs a lot of computation. So it's in the minutes or in the hours for some of the most complex ones. And the reason that they're so popular is because they do have efficient proof verification. So the first S in the snark is about the fact that these proofs are succinct. So no matter how complex a statement you want to prove, they'll usually take about the same time to actually verify. For Sigma protocols, they're actually not about encoding a computation that you know the inputs to. They're actually effectively encoding an equation that you're going to prove that you know the solution to. So if we go back to this joint split, what you're actually proving is very similar to how a Bitcoin transaction works. You're basically saying, I know the inputs to the left-hand side, and the sum of those inputs is equal to the sum of the outputs on the right-hand side. So that's fundamentally just an equality check, which is a pretty simple equation. They're highly general, so they can be applied in a lot of different contexts. They're very, very efficient to construct. So compared to minutes with snarks, AZTEC, Sigma protocols, and the proofs behind them take about 10 milliseconds, or in the order of that, to construct, which is basically imperceptible to the end user, which was our goal. And with the particular commitment function that we use, the range proof for AZTEC is also very, very efficient to verify. So AZTEC itself is actually made up of, there's 5 on there, but there's actually 7 in the product as it stands, of small Sigma protocols that all encodes these slightly different equations, and that you're proving these kind of statements that you're trying to prove. And you can use a combination of them, or some of them, like some teams have done at ETH India so far, to basically create very custom semantics that you want your transaction to abide by. So you could say, for example, I want a transfer where no transfer can be greater or less than a particular amount. The ones that are not on there, by the way, are minting and burning. So very similar to an ERC20, you can mint and burn in a fully confidential asset. And most importantly, because of the specifics of how AZTEC is constructed, and because things are a bit simpler than with Snarks, we have full cross-asset interoperability. So that means that basically without a trusted third party, without an additional trusted setup, we can trade tokens atomically, which is, we think, pretty cool. Very quick note on, we have a confidential token standards. The interface has actually changed a little bit. Sorry, this is a bit of an old talk. The interface has changed a little bit from that, but it's basically implementing a very similar interface to what an ERC20 is. So you have confidential transfer from. You can approve transfers by other parties, and you can do basically everything that you can do with an ERC20, except everything is confidential. And yeah, that's basically a very, very quick introduction to, I guess, what is behind AZTEC. I didn't want to, I can go a bit more in depth into, I guess, what the product is and what we've been up to in questions, or just come talk to us. Everyone who's wearing this kind of AZTEC t-shirt is with the team, so we're very happy to help if you're at the hackathon, or just talk through things if you're just generally interested in blockchain and privacy, and you're here just for the meetup. That's basically my talk.
Any questions for Arno about AZTEC protocol?
Thanks for the nice talk. Was thinking about the transactions. Could this be used to somehow hide some transactions and kind of like avoid this front-running issue, for example, that exchanges has? And I think I today discussed about similar front-running in issues in lending as well, where you have supply-demand based lending protocols where the interest rates change, and when you know what the counterparty is doing or other peers, you can basically take those opportunities.
Yeah, exactly. So we have, I guess, a side effect of it being confidential is you'll see that a transaction is happening, and the way AZTEC is built now, you'll see what assets are being transacted, but you have no information about what the actual transaction is. So even if you think that you might be able to have filled that order in a better way, or just actually front run, you won't be able to take that transaction.
Cool, thanks.
Who has the question next?
The person raising his hand.
So for each of the actions, which is like transacting or like all the actions, so there's a need to generate a zero knowledge proof, is it?
Correct, yeah.
And is that computationally very heavy, or?
So the actual generation of the proof, like I said, is always in the order of either single-digit milliseconds or 10 milliseconds. So I mean, under certain very, very like low-powered devices, like Android phones, it might extend to maybe an order of magnitude above that, so say 100 or 200 milliseconds, but that's still basically imperceptible to the user.
Okay, so that can be done in the browser as well, right?
Yeah, so everything that we've built so far is browser-based. So all our proof construction is written in JavaScript, and those proof construction time like estimates is in JavaScript.
Cool stuff. And another question is from the business perspective. So you said that when AZTEC started, you guys weren't really building a privacy protocol, but you were working with, I think, corporates, like big companies, to figure out the financial assets they were investing in.
Yeah.
So from the business perspective, is AZTEC working with some firms already, or are you guys trying to build an ecosystem? and hope that something blooms?
Yeah, so we started with more financial firms and debt funds and banks and these kinds of folks when we were doing the debt origination products. We have since fully pivoted to AZTEC. Basically, what we realized is that there were quite a few people doing asset issuance on blockchains, and there are very few people solving the privacy problem in what we thought was an adequate way. And so our full focus is on building AZTEC in a way that's general enough that anyone can use it. So it's very much building the protocol and building the platform around AZTEC. We might release from time to time like what we think are good extensions to AZTEC, so kind of reference products that we're going to be putting out there. But our focus is very much making it as general as possible.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Cool, thank you very much. I feel like I should introduce you now that you're coming and doing a talk. So next up is Kyber. You're going to see how good their product line is. I think you're going to talk a little bit about how Kyber got started, and then a quick demo about Kyber and how you can contribute, right? Cool. A big round of applause.
Thank you, Arno.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Once again for joining us at the meetup. So I'm Shane, I'm marketing manager for Kyber Network, and today I have with me also Sunny, our head of product. So today we're going to share with you a really high-level overview of Kyber Network. As you can see, our motto is any token anywhere, and you'll get to learn a little bit more why that is later. So in general, we are a liquidity protocol that powers on-chain decentralized swaps in any application. And I'd just like to start off with how the origin story of Kyber. So we have three co-founders, Loy, Victor, and Yaron. And they were very early in the Ethereum space, and they were mainly on research. And before they even started Kyber, they actually looked at the three main problems of blockchain: security, decentralization, and scalability. And they looked at they developed Oyente, which was the first automated smart contract verification framework and an open source auditing tool. And today, part of Oyente is actually maintained and used by Melon and Quantstem as well. And they also developed a decentralized mining pool called Smart Pool. As you can see, it's the same three co-founders as Kyber back then. And for scalability, they also did a research on Elastico, which was one of the inspirations behind Zilliqa sharding solution. So, and today, there are already so many different solutions to these three problems. And at that time, what they felt like doing was shifting their focus towards a problem that they saw that was really prevalent then, which was that there are so many different Ethereum tokens. And I think today there are about 1,000 over Ethereum tokens. And there's no easy way to actually swap one token to another in a fully decentralized manner. And so, I'd just like to show you a very typical scenario of how people swap tokens today on a centralized exchange, for example. So if you have basic attention token, this is ERC20 token, the BAT. If you want to swap it to linked tokens, first you would have to transfer your BAT tokens to an exchange, wait for it to be deposited there, and they will hold your funds, they will hold custody of your funds, right? And first you have to sell your BAT tokens once it's inside to ETH, and using the ETH, purchase your linked tokens before withdrawing it into your own wallet address. And during this whole process, for centralized exchanges, for those of you who use them, there's a risk that if their central servers get hacked, your funds may be lost if they don't compensate you for it. So on Kyber, or dApps that are actually integrated with Kyber and using Kyber, we have extracted the the very complex process behind the scenes for all the swapping between BET to ETH to Link. And we have done this in a fully decentralized and on-chain manner on Ethereum. So we have made it for users that are using these dApps. They are able to actually swap tokens in a fast, simple, and secure manner. So with this simple explanation, right, what is Kyber? Right, Kyber is an on-chain liquidity protocol that powers decentralized token swaps in any application. And how do we do it? Is by providing a framework where people can actually contribute liquidity as what we call reserves to our smart contracts. And any dApps that integrate with Kyber or any end users that use Kyber, they are able to gain access to all these different ERC20 tokens. So today we have about 80 ERC20 tokens that we support. And just to share with you a few use cases. Yeah, so for crypto wallets that integrate with Kyber, here are some examples. Their users are able to swap ERC20 tokens within the wallet without leaving to different exchanges, to a different tab. They can just do it all within the wallet itself. For this is another example, HTC Exodus, which is a blockchain smartphone developed by HTC. They have also integrated Kyber to allow swaps to take place all within their phone wallet. And for payment services, for example, for blockchain games, let's say for CryptoKitties, for Ethereum, for Axie Infinity, users are able to use any ERC20 token to pay for these NFTs, what we call non-fungible tokens, crypto collectibles. And if you own an e-commerce store that is selling T-shirts, you can also, by integrating Kyber, you can also accept payments in 80 over ERC20 tokens. And you as the merchant can specify the token that you want to receive. For example, DAI, which is a stablecoin, or USDC. For decentralized financial services, for example, margin lending platforms like Aave, Evelyn, under Aave, Nor, Lendroid, and Instadap, by integrating Kyber, they are also able to allow their users to rebalance and liquidate the portfolio seamlessly within the dApp itself. And yeah, for people who are interested in developing trading or arbitrage bots, by integrating Kyber, they are also able to make this kind of software. So just to show you some of the examples of the projects that integrate with Kyber today, we have over 60 integrated projects for between end-user token swaps, decentralized payments, and exchanges and trading reserves that we integrate for more liquidity, as well as decentralized finance projects. And here are some basic stats. Over 830,000 ETH worth of trades have been processed through Kyber network. Roughly, in today's price, about $220 per ETH is about $183 million. We support over 75 ERC20 tokens. There are 27 different reserves. As I mentioned earlier, these are like liquidity providers on Kyber, and over 60 applications that have integrated with Kyber. And next, we would like to show you a very quick demo of kyberswap.com. So KyberSwap is one of the 60 different applications that are being powered by the Kyber protocol. And it allows end users, anybody who's like just started in crypto, right? As long as you have Ethereum in your Ethereum address and wallet, you are able to swap between any of the 80 ERC20 tokens that we support in a very fast, simple, and secure manner, fully on-chain, decentralized on Ethereum. So I will have Sunny, our head of product, to give you a really quick demo of KyberSwap.
This promo code to a lot of people, so I'll just demonstrate how do you use the promo code to get your ETH and maybe transfer it to your own wallet. to follow me if you have the promo card with you. So just open kyberswap.com. Scroll down, click on the promo code option. Enter the promo code that we have given it to you. It's in your card. Click apply, and there you go. You have 5 PD, which you can convert to ETH. Due to congestion, you want to change the gas price to a little bit low. Shane, slow down. You just click on the swap and then it's confirmed. So your transaction is now being mined. Now we have a lot of time because it chooses a slow gas price. So probably will take around a minute. So here you can click on Etherscan or Nginx to see your transaction. Still mining.
Definitely for very useful scaling solutions like what Matic is attempting for layer 2 scaling, and there are also other scaling solutions in the market right now that Kyber is researching closely so that we can see how it can be adapted also for our protocol. Yeah, so we wanted to share with our own laptop, but because I think my Mac isn't supported, so we had to use a different.
I'll just explain
laptop.
the next step. So once your transaction is done, you will probably see some ETH in the wallet. So you can just click on the transfer option, enter your wallet address, and just choose the ETH and move to your wallet. That's as simple as this.
Yeah, so that's it for our presentation. Do you have any questions? Yes, up it.
Hi, Shane. So can you talk more about the liquidity reserves? Like, who are these people who are providing liquidity?
Let me go to the relevant slide. Yeah, so I'll just go into the liquidity side, right? So your question is about how people are contributing liquidity onto Kyber. Is that it?
Yes, so as I understand, it's probably not a pool, and there are like some kind of like big players who are providing liquidity because there are only 27 liquidity reserves. So I'm trying to understand like how does it work and who are these people?
Cool. Okay, so for Kyber, you can look at it as one big liquidity pool, but like the 27 reserves that I was talking about, right, individual liquidity providers. So for people who are new to blockchain, you can look at it as a money changer in real life. That's a very good, simple analogy. So for a money changer, in order to convert your rupees to USD, let's say when you want to travel overseas, they need to have a lot of inventory of different USD and rupees as well in their safe, right, in the shop. Or other people that are converting other fiat currencies, they need to have inventory of Canadian dollars, Singapore dollars, etc. So likewise, for Kyber, on our smart contracts, we allow these reserves to list the token on Kyber. for example, let's say a token team that did an ICO and they want to list on Kyber, they will provide liquidity to our contracts, and they will be one of the 27 reserves that we have. So we have verified reserves, meaning liquidity providers that have to go through Kyber to list their token for free. But we also have permissionless reserves. And for ETH India, we actually allocated some money for a bounty for any project that's able to create a really simple process for anybody without KYC, without any permission from the Kyber team to contribute liquidity to the Kyber network. So the 27 reserves I was talking about earlier, they are all verified reserves. But we definitely want more permissionless liquidity that is added to our protocol as well.
Okay. And how often, like on average, do these liquidity reserves, are they setting the exchange rates? Like, do you have a number on that? Is it like once in an hour? Definitely not that, like once a minute, once in 5 minutes. Any average on that?
Okay, in terms of the exact number, Anton, our developer here, will be able to answer that question. But in general, for each reserve, the price that they set, right, is entirely up to them. So Kyber ourselves, we are one of the reserves on the protocol. But the other, 26 plus reserves that provide liquidity for us, they set their own rates, they set their own prices, and we don't control it at all. So Anton, you want to share a bit more on the timing for the price rate?
Hello. So basically we're one of the market makers, right, or reserves in Kyber network. And we operate actually several kinds of reserves. So one is a reserve that is quite flexible, where we set prices, we decide prices off-chain and then submit them to the smart contract. And we do this around, there's no like fixed limit or time, because it depends on like the volatility of the market, right, and depending on the token. So if the token is not so volatile, and depending on our analytics, we don't actually update the price so often. But let's just say there's a certain token that is quite volatile. Let's say there's a very rapid market action, right, then we would be updating the price almost every block, or at least every block. Okay. So it really depends on the token, and it really depends on like the market at that point of time.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, sure. And another question. So you mentioned that, so like I think Shane would be answering that one, because you said that you are researching layer 2 solutions.
Yes.
For your scalability needs. And I was just curious about what kind of requirements, or what kind of guarantees do you need from these layer 2 solutions for it to be viable for Kyber?
Yeah, sure. So definitely. So actually we did some initial research on layer 2, and actually we also announced this like a couple of months ago. We call it Gormos. And I think, I'm not sure if you told them the story about why we have, okay. But this is just initial research, and we kind of like shifted focus and our resources into other avenues, because we found that it would be better to just work with other projects that's doing scalability. And I guess one of the things that we wanted addressed, like when we are looking for scaling solutions, is that, as an exchange, right, and as a user, it would be good for them to instantly trade and be able to, get their funds immediately, right? And one of the concerns about like using Plasma, or one of the variations of Plasma, is the exit problem. So after you do a trade, then usually your funds would be stuck in the second layer, and you need to do like an exit. You need to wait for this period of time, right, for your exit to be challenged. Yeah, so that's kind of like one of the concerns, and in our case, right, and we're actually not focusing yet on the scaling part yet, because one of the immediate problems that we wanted to resolve first is liquidity. And as more DeFi projects are coming into Ethereum, for example, there are more demand for liquidity so far. So that's kind of like what we're focusing on right now as a problem. But it would be good to work with, like with Matic, for example, for solving the scalability problem as well, like for faster trades.
Sure, looking forward. So we have been thinking about this as well. So the thing is, if you want dApps to build on Matic, right, some of the dApps require this token exchange liquidity, right? Yeah. So it's kind of like a chicken and egg problem.
Yes.
So dApps will build if there's liquidity, and like for liquidity to be there, the chain needs to be good, and there needs to be a good number of dApps.
Yeah.
So we have been thinking about it.
And setting problems to solve as well.
Yeah, yeah, sure. So just one more thing about that plasma exit time.
Yes.
So even though for plasma to be secured, it's 7 days, but
Yes.
Matic is working on a fast exit solution.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah,
Which means you'll get your tokens exited immediately, and someone else will take the risk. So that someone else is validating the chain.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
they'll give you 99 cents for $1.
Yeah,
and
the
then
fast withdrawal, so one of the solutions. Yeah,
yeah, sure.
It's cool. Nice to see that.
Thank you.
Right. Yeah, sure. Maybe Shane can take this one.
Just a follow up on his question. You mentioned that reserves set their own price. So if some of these reserves have the same token, is it if Ethereum or DAI, how do they compete on the prices? Because on Kyber we see only one price.
Okay, so for the end user on, let's say Kyber Swap, what the demo that we showed you earlier, right? The price you see is actually the best price that's aggregated from all the different liquidity sources. So let's say that, the 27 reserves, right? Each reserve can actually provide more than one token for liquidity. So they will aggregate through the prices that all the different reserves set at a point of time for that token pair, for that quantity amount. The end user, if you're swapping on the Kyber Swap, you will see the best price among all those reserves.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Hello, Shane and Sunny.
Hi.
First thing, thank you for sponsoring this place and making the hackathon possible. I would like to understand better what it takes to be on the Kyber network, because there's only 75 assets, and I'm sure many other assets or traders would like to trade different assets that are not listed. And what are your requirements?
So, yeah, as mentioned earlier, we have two different types of reserves. One is like verified reserves. So token teams that want to list a token have to approach us to be on the verified reserves. And we also have permissionless reserves where we allow anybody to set up a reserve and submit orders to that reserve. So for verified reserves, the process is actually pretty simple. You just go to our website, kyber.network. We have a form there for under reserves or under list your token section. And by filling up the form, our compliance team will get back to you in a few days regarding what other information he needs. So the most important thing is that the token has to be an ERC20 token because for now Kyber's protocol is mainly based on an Ethereum blockchain, and it has to be a utility token, and the token the team must have a legal opinion stating that the token is not a security. So that is for verified reserves. But on the protocol front, we want it to be as permissionless and open as possible. And so for permissionless reserves, right now we allow people to set up what we call an order book reserve, and they can submit orders there after that. But we acknowledge that the process for contributing liquidity to the permissionless order book reserve is not as ideal as it could be. And so we take this opportunity, for example, ETH India and other hackathons that we'll be doing later part of this year, to encourage developers to think of innovative ways where anybody can build a simple website for any layman to contribute liquidity to the Kyber protocol through the permissionless reserve. So right now we don't have a interface that is as simple and fast as we would like for this particular set of reserves. But yeah, we are hoping that talented developers in India and the rest of the world will be able to help us in finding a solution for this. Thank you, Patricia. Do we have any more questions for this? Okay. Yeah, just to share, if you have any other questions when we go back to Singapore, you can follow us on social media. For developers, we have a developer portal, developer.kyber.network. All the documentation is there. And yeah, thank you very much, guys. There's food and drinks outside this auditorium for you guys. And I want to thank Aave, AZTEC, and Matic for being co-sponsors, and Devfolio, of course, for being co-organizers for this meetup. And thank you very much for attending and showing your support. Thank you. Yeah, for those who answered questions, I gave you some already. For those who have not received it, yeah, I'll be giving more $5 Ethereum coupons to AZTEC, Aave, and Matic. So please go to them for any other questions that you have, and they'll give them to you as well. Okay, thank you.